Meanwhile, President Trump is back at the White House following his hospitalization at Walter Reed Medical Center for COVID-19. Here it is here. He made his big return, removing his mask, as you can tell here in front of cameras outside of the White House, and even giving reporters a thumbs up. He later tweeted a minute-long video in which he urged Americans not to let the virus, which has, by the way, killed more than 200,000 people, scare them. Take a look.
The doctors, the nurses, the first responders, and I learned so much about coronavirus. And one thing that's for certain, don't let it dominate you. Don't be afraid of it. You're going to beat it. We have the best medical equipment. We have the best medicines, all developed recently.
And as we've seen, Cassie, so many celebrities were quick to react to the president's reaction to the coronavirus.
One of those celebrities being Chris Evans, who pointed out what a lot of people were saying on social media, that the president has had access to a level of care in the hospital that really is unavailable to most Americans. His tweet says, "You've been under round-the-clock care by the best doctors using the best drugs. Do you really think everyone has access to that? Sadly, I'm sure you're aware of that disparity. You just don't care. This is reckless to a shocking degree, even for you." Trey Songz also criticized the president after he himself tested positive for COVID this week. He urged his followers not to be like Donald Trump and urged everyone to take it seriously. Take a listen.
I don't know how many of y'all know, but my grandfather passed early this year, and while it wasn't said that it was COVID, I do believe it was, so I've always taken it serious. And if you come in contact with COVID, please do the same. Please do the same. Don't be like the president.
Making it clear right there, don't be like the president. Again, I think the reaction to President Trump saying don't let the virus control you was so shocking, considering just the sheer number alone of people who have died from the coronavirus. And then you have to think about the countless families that were impacted and affected by this too. Perfect example, of course, is Amanda Kloots. She's the widow of Broadway star Nick Cordero, who sadly lost his life to COVID-19. And she took to Instagram to slam the president's comments, writing, "Unfortunately, not everyone is lucky enough to spend 2 days in the hospital. I cried next to my husband for 95 days watching what COVID did to the person I love. It is something to be afraid of. After you see the person you love the most die from this disease, you would never say what this tweet says. There is no empathy to all the lives lost. He is bragging instead." That gave me chills, Cass, when I read that.
It was very tough to watch her Instagram stories and see the emotion. I mean, she had tears streaming down her face, feeling so discouraged, saying that he is supposed to be a leader, and she's calling for empathy. As someone who has been through this, as someone who, this disease has completely changed her family for the rest of her life. Even if Nick, did not pass away from this disease, it still would have changed their life regardless, which is what she talked about on her Insta story. So, I mean, my heart goes out to her and all of the families who have, been affected by COVID-19. And, one thing yesterday that caught my attention was Chris Cuomo, who actually went viral for calling out Trump's COVID propaganda video. Take a look at this.
He didn't just walk into the White House one time with no mask tonight. He had his video crew capture that stupid scene again so he could put out propaganda, fronting a lie to his people. Once again, just like don't worry about the mask. Now he says don't worry about COVID. Don't let it control your life. Just propaganda. That's all it is.
You got to give props to Cuomo for speaking passionately, but honestly. I think, it's hard to compare reactions to this because at the end of the day, it's just, people pointing out how reckless his comments are to a population of the country that is not taking this disease serious, even though cases still exist, But I just have to give props to Chris Cuomo for, I feel, speaking what a lot of people were thinking that day. He's like, I don't care, where your party alliance is. I don't care that I'm on television, that I am a news journalist and a personality. He was like, this is how I feel. And again, I think it echoed the sentiment of a lot of people in this country.
100%. And, you mentioned the word reckless, and obviously a lot of things we see play out on social media, especially from President Donald Trump. And, this was very interesting that a tweet of his actually got blocked by Twitter. It was this tweet right here comparing the coronavirus to the flu. And so they marked it as misinformation, and Facebook actually removed it. So the original tweet was, flu season is coming up. Many people every year, sometimes over 100,000, and despite the vaccine, die from the flu. Are we going to close down our country? No, we have to learn to live with it, just like we are learning to live with COVID. In most populations, far less lethal. And I just feel like in some of the words that he uses, to kind of summarize what Amanda Kloots said, is there's just a lack of empathy. We just have to learn to live with it. You think of someone like Amanda, for example, now having to learn to live without her husband because of this.